Hello everybody, welcome to the Video Creator Show. I am your host, Grant, and today I'm speaking with Jaron M. LeGrare. He is a voice teacher who is doing big things on YouTube, TikTok, and beyond. He has over 180,000 subscribers on YouTube, over 390,000 followers on TikTok. He also teaches personal voice lessons and has an honest, but in my opinion, gentle teaching style. Jaron, you seem like you are really passionate about singing and using the voice as an instrument in general. Now, obviously, kind of building a following is always impressive when it's about this size. And I do want to talk about kind of your style of content and sort of not just reacting to things, but you'll sort of critique things in pop culture, kind of give your opinion, analyze it, things like that. But before we get into that, I'd like to hear kind of about your background. Like, where did your passion for music and singing come from? And what is your origin story?
Origin story. That's a good question. Well, I'm a singer, by trade. My occupation, my vocation is the teaching, but my trade has always been singing. I don't ever remember a day where I wasn't singing. I feel like my parents have told me, they were like, you've been singing your whole life, I come from a family of singers. My brothers, I have two older brothers who also sing. Both of my parents sing very well. My parents' siblings on both sides sang and sing. My grandparents sang in choirs, so it kind of just has been my cousins. We all kind of sing and things like that. And so singing has just been a huge part of my life. And I think just from that alone made me passionate about the voice itself. Because I've been in so many different choirs and different settings, different shows over the years that I was so blessed to be a part of, that a lot of people can't say they were a part of, So being in those settings just really kind of built in and put in a fire in my passion for, for the voice and things like that. So that's where that comes from. I had my first solo. I was, my parents said I was 2 or 3. I had my first solo. Wow. I remember the song. I don't remember how old I was, but I remember the song. I remember what I was wearing because my grandmother made it. I remember that too.
What was the song?
It was Give Thanks by Don Moen. Give thanks with a grateful heart. That song. Yeah, so he was singing that song and I had the lead. I still sometimes sing that song to this day. It's rare that you hear me sing that song, but it's such a classic. He just, sometimes just comes up. But yeah, I was singing that song and I remember seeing videos of my family and I, kind of like the Partridge Family, or like the, singing together in different churches growing up when I was little. I remember some of those moments, my parents singing weddings. So it just has always been, my parents were like legit wedding singers. That's crazy. But yeah, it's always been a part of my life. I just always saw it, in front of me. So that's where it all comes from.
That always seems like a really solid foundation for a career like this and kind of making a living in the arts. I feel like growing up with it and kind of getting acquainted to it at a young age, and that it sort of instills that childlike wonder into this thing that carries on to adulthood, right?
Absolutely.
And so, like, when you obviously you grew up and you started posting things on YouTube and TikTok and kind of getting a following, I'm curious, what made you want to do that in the first place? Was this a move to kind of help your vocal coaching? Did this precede your vocal coaching? How did all of this kind of fit together?
So my studio, the Jaron M. LeGrare Studio, started in 2013. So we're celebrating 10 years this year.
Oh, congrats.
And that's a lot of people don't know. And I'm having a big event actually for my studio for the 10 years. So until the event was announced, nobody knew that I was celebrating 10 years because I kind of popped on the scene in 2018, 2019. And so nobody knew I've been teaching way longer than I've been posting videos. So I started a studio in 2013 in grad school, Ohio State, go Bucks. And I remember 2015, 2014, I had a meeting with a marketing firm, Amp Strategy, shout outs to them, in Akron, Ohio. And they basically were like, you should get on YouTube and post videos. And I'm like, no. So I didn't want to do YouTube. And not because I didn't like YouTube. Of course, I watched YouTube back then, but I honestly didn't want people to hear my talking voice. I just didn't like my talking voice. I've always loved my singing voice. My talking voice is always a struggle for me. So I don't want people to hear me talk. So I was like, in order to do that, I'm not going to talk on YouTube. you know. And I didn't want people to see me. And it's the very thing that people like, what they see, I didn't want people to experience at first. But they were like, yeah, you should get on YouTube. It's like 2015. Like, you should get on YouTube. You should start posting videos. I'm like, no. And then I think 2018, 2019, I started exploring the idea. And I had an iPhone, was it iPhone 11 at the time? iPhone 11, a ring light I made with foil, a reframe, and some LED lights from Amazon.
Beautiful.
And I made my own tripod out of something. And so I just started with that and started doing little videos. And they were like more so like tips and tricks videos. They weren't analysis videos. But then I would see the vocal, some of the vocal coaches who, I admire and look up to were posting these, his reactions. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. Maybe I can talk about people, that I want to do. And I was looking for artists that I liked that I didn't see a lot of people talking about them. Or anybody at all, honestly. And so I said, well, shoot, I'm going to talk about them. If they not, I'm going to do it. And so I think 2019, I want to say 2018 and 2019, my first video, I did a video gospel group with Donald Lawrence and the Tri-City Singers doing a song from Instagram. And I want to say 2019, 2020. Anyway, one of them years. And I remember posting it. And I posted on my Instagram as well, my studio's Instagram page, and I tagged, the artist. And I remember being so nervous tagging him. Like, what if they hate it? What if I'm talking wrong? Mm-hmm. And 10 minutes later, he comments and like DMs me like, this is an excellent video. Everything you said was like spot on. And I'm like, and if those who know Donald Lawrence knows that he's like super particular and super sharp in his gift in terms of teaching and music and singing with his choir. And so when he messaged me, I was sitting in Starbucks in the booth, like in amazement. I called my mom, like almost about to cry, like, Mom, he said something to me. Because I look up to Donald so much. And so when he said it, I'm like, okay, I'm on to something. And so I kind of said, let me just keep doing this. Maybe this is something to do. With the iPhone, I started just doing them over and over. And then shortly after I started posting, the pandemic happened. And that's when I really went in full throttle with the videos, because I'm like, okay, I'm not seeing anybody in person right now, because at first when the pandemic first happened, we're all kind of at home in the standstill. So I'm like, I can't have no clients. I don't know what's going on with the world. So I had to figure out, what can I do? And so I remember going to Target, getting a little set. So I went and bought a little blanket, a little pillow, like a little plant, and a little picture frame, put my grandmother's picture inside. And then I started posting videos. I bought a camera, started posting videos. And that was when my channel started going off. It was a Jasmine Sullivan video, Pick Up Your Feelings, that she did with all the plants around her. And I remember posting it of me and that, analyzing it, edited on iMovie, analyzed it, and it got like 10,000 views at that time in like a day, which was huge for me. Wow. When I only had like a couple hundred subscribers. And I think that video got me to my first, I think 10K, I want to say, or 100,000, something like that. But it got me to, a significant amount of subscribers, and then the rest has been history. And I just kind of went with the flow and kind of just went with the wave of whatever I was doing that was working. But I didn't know what I was doing was working at the time. I just did it because I wanted to. And it just kind of caught on. And I'm going to tell you what, and I know I'm talking a lot, but I'm going to tell you what changed my brain. I was posting them tips and tricks videos, and my friend was like, she's also in my office building. She has a studio there, and she was like, "You're not being yourself on camera." And I'm like, "What you mean?" She was like, they need to see this, Jaren. That's what Jaren putting on camera. I'm like, I thought I was fish. She's like, "No, you're being too uptight, and I'm like, okay. So it was once I started being myself was when the people started coming. Honestly, so I just kind of let my hair down and just said, this is, Jaren, talking like this, this Midwestern twang that I got. Once I started letting that go is when the people started just kind of finding me and subscribing, So then same thing with TikTok. I started doing it in the pandemic. Started posting on TikTok, reluctantly, didn't want to. I grew to 100,000 followers in months from posting what I was posting, kind of just revamping what I did on YouTube, just making it TikTok friendly, with the vertical and the words, and
right.
The rest has been history with everything. And then I did the same on Instagram with the Reels, and now I'm at 115,000 followers on Instagram. Wow. So like I'm like, yeah. So it's just been one after the other, like a snowball effect. So that's kind of all that happened in a nutshell.
Hey there. You probably know the Video Creator Show is brought to you by VidChops.com. What is VidChops.com? Well, it is an editing service that will take the horrible burden of editing off your back. We all know video editing. It's tedious. It takes forever. But what if you had a professional who did it for you? You go to sleep, you wake up, it's done. Wouldn't that be magical? VidChops.com. Hire a professional, save yourself time and energy, and take your YouTube channel to the next level. That was a lovely summary. Like, you said you talk a lot, but honestly, it was pretty concise for everything that's happened. I also love the part where you know, your friend pulled you aside and was like, you're not being yourself on camera. I'm wondering, like, after you let your hair down and kind of started opening up more on camera and kind of letting it flow, did you also find it took less energy to record videos?
Yeah. Yeah, I was more myself. Absolutely. So it just felt more natural. And what I was saying on camera felt more natural because I was kind of just talking like I talk to my friends. I wasn't saying, hello, my name is Sharon, and I ain't like, you know, that's not me. You know, I've never been that way my whole life. I've always been, quote unquote, informal, if you want to call it that, just been myself. You know, no matter what setting I'm in, I'm going to be Jaren. You know, no matter where I am, I'm going to talk like I'm going to talk. And I think that's part of the reason why people have gravitated towards me. And thankfully they have. You know, they just say, oh, I'm the, even when they meet me privately for like their one-on-ones, people who meet me for the first time, they're like, oh, like you're the same way. Like, and I said, no, this is me all the time. Nothing changes on and off camera. You know, you make it even more raw with me, you know, being one-on-one with you versus on the camera. But other than that, yeah, and I think that's what was part of the magic sauce that made, you know, my channels happen. Is just I was just being myself and talking about things I was passionate about, you know, and then from that, people just like, oh yeah, this is cool, you know. So yeah, that's how that happened.
And how, like, when all this started taking off, especially with where you're at now, like, how has this affected your day to day? Like, in terms of, did you quit your day job? Do you like what happens when you wake up in the morning now versus before all of this happened?
So before all of this happened, I was a adjunct professor at several universities, and I loved doing it, honestly. I loved adjuncting. People kind of have their quarrels about it. I didn't.
What is adjuncting exactly?
Basically a part-time teacher at a university. So it's kind of, you know, I guess the more of like entry-level professor, or kind of just a lower level, if you will. I hate saying lower level because I don't really feel like it's that. But it's part-time, so it's like non-committal, so it's like on contract semester to semester. So I understand because sometimes those can be inconsistent because it's contract per every 13 weeks. So, you know, what if nobody signs up or they don't need you? You're technically not an employee with salary, so they could just not renew your contract and you're done, you know. So, but I was blessed to be at institutions where I was constantly renewed. And even before social media started happening, I was thankful to have students who really wanted to study with me. So I was always in demand. You know, in every institution I was at, thank God, you know. So, but once, like I said, the pandemic happened and the social media started happening, and the post-pandemic, if you will, if you want to say it like that, kind of when things started coming back in the world, I remember I stepped down from an institution just because of time. My time for my private studio started increasing. And so I knew I couldn't commit to all these universities anymore. So one by one, I started kind of, you know, stepping down. And actually, I stepped down from my final in-person position a year ago in July. And so I became, so it took a minute because I loved working there so much. I didn't want to let it go, but I knew to do what I wanted to do here in my private studio, I had to let it go. And I was so scared because that was such a comfort and a blanket for me. Like, okay, even if I don't got no clients, you know, I'm gonna still have that patient coming in. So, but I'm now at a point where, I mean, people are booking it's still May 31st. People are booking into August with me.
Wow.
Yeah, so I thank the Lord above. I don't have a problem with, you know, with that right now, you know, and then plus, you know, leveraging social media income as well. I've been able to fully work for myself, you know, which has been a huge goal that I didn't know I wanted to have until the last 2 years, I'll say. So, but I mean, even day-to-day life, I mean, people, though I don't feel it, people really think I'm famous.
I mean, you kind of are.
I guess, but in my brain, I don't think about it. Like, I just wake up and do what I do. But like, I mean, I went to Spain in October. I was stopped in the airport in Spain. Somebody knew me from my social media in Spain. They were like, "You're that guy that's doing TikTok who talking to people singing." I was like, "Yeah,
international
America." So that's kind of weird, but yeah. I mean, I went down to Nashville this past summer. I take my brother lives there, so I try to take a yearly trip to see him once a year. And I was down there this past summer with some friends and him. And we were sitting in the middle of the mall, and 3 people came up to me. "I love your YouTube channel. Oh my God, I love." I went to the Nike store. One of the workers walked up to me. "You're on YouTube. We watch my film and I watch you all the time." And I'm like, wow. And so my brother has never seen that happen. So when he was standing there watching people walk up to me, he was like, this happens? I was like, Manny, it happens. And I don't, so that's kind of new for me. The bigger I grow, the more people come up to me. Even at my event, I'm going to have security. I've never in my life thought I would ever need security. But now I will have security for myself because, to be protective of myself and those around me for this event. Because I have people coming who don't know me, who I don't know. I mean, it's sold out. So it's a lot of people coming to this thing. So, just for my own peace of mind, I hired my own security, which, like I said, I never thought
good idea. Yeah.
I would have to do, but now here we are. And my friends are like, "You definitely need security." And I'm just like, I never thought I would, because I just don't see it. And I think oftentimes I don't think of it because all of my followers, or all the studio's followers, are behind devices. So I talk in front of a camera. I talk in front of a phone. I don't see these people. And so I forget that they follow me until they come up to me like, "Oh my God, I can't stop." So that's the interesting part. So that's the newness of, notoriety is like, oh, people know who I am. Like, and they ask me to, come to stuff and do things. I'm just like, oh, wow. But yeah, that's just the new stuff now.
Mm-hmm. And when you're working with clients, so somebody books an appointment with you and you're helping them to become a better singer, like I'm guessing that looks different for a lot of people. Like, I'm kind of curious what an average session looks like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yes, you're right. It is, everybody's different. Everybody has different goals, different levels, different, attributes that they want to, cover. But a typical session for me at this point, I'm way more so like, vocal, and I'm making this up as I go, like a vocal anatomy or vocal technique coach. Because of the intensity of my schedule now, I don't do as much like the nitty gritty, like, let's sing a scale. No. Like, I'm way more like, come warmed up, come ready to go, and let's work through these songs, or let's work through this monologue, or let's work through, versus me warming you up for most of it, and then after we only got 10 minutes, so I've kind of changed into more of like a consultant, if you will. So I mean, I'm still a voice teacher, obviously, and I can still warm people up, things like that, but my studio has become way more of like a voice consulting moment, though I don't call it that. Just because I see so many people, a lot of people I may see once or twice, some people. And then sometimes, I get so many new people, I sometimes forget, oh, I saw you 3 months ago. Oh, I saw, and there's nothing against them. It's just, I see so many people in my face, I have to be like, now, what do we do? Or who, so, but it's just like I said, I feel like I've become more of a consultant of sorts. But still a teacher at heart and still gonna have those skill sets. So yeah, that's what we usually work on material, work on technique through materials, not so much let's do scales, It's like let's figure out why you're having a problem with this verse. Let's figure out why when you talk it hurts. Let's figure that out. So I like to get to that stuff quicker versus let's do scales and things. So
yeah, it's I also do some consulting totally in a different realm, like I help people build their YouTube channels, and I'm kind of wondering, like, how many people are you able to see a day? Because I guess with you, like, I don't know how much preparation goes into each appointment, right? So I'm curious, like, what is your bandwidth per day that you generally have?
Nowadays, because my hands are in so many different baskets now, I would say about four is a good amount for me. I used to teach like 6, 7, 8 a day. When I was at the one school I worked at, when I first started there, I had 15 in one day.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and those are 15 to 50-minute lessons. So I was there for 12 hours.
Dang.
Because I also didn't tell you this. I live 2 hours away from that school. So I would have to drive twice a week or once a week to go to that institution to work. I would go like one day and knock out all my students in one day and then come home. So those are long days. But even now, my private studio, I used to go like 6 sessions. Now I'm like, give me 4. 3, 4, I'll take 2, honestly, and just spread them out. Cause my bandwidth, it's taxing, because teaching and, consulting and teaching your for that hour, for that 30 minutes, 40, you're constantly on. So you're
totally.
constantly, problem solving and listening and thinking and listening to them not only sing, but feedback. How did I feel? Okay, I feel. So there's so many things to go on, in those 45 minutes. It's not just sitting in front of everybody singing and say, oh, do the skill, you'd be great. There's so much more to it. And so, yeah, like now it's like, I could probably do 4. I could maybe do 5, but I'm good with like a 3 people a day. That's like, I can relax. My brain is not, so yeah. But I would say like 3 to 5 is my bandwidth.
Mm-hmm. So it seems most of your business comes from that kind of consulting, coaching, teaching aspect of things. And then social media is more, that's like almost passive income to a certain extent. Obviously, it's not passive because it takes work to maintain it, but it's like almost, that's not the goal of social media, it seems. It's almost like the money is an afterthought and it comes in. So would you say like did you go into this with a strategy at all? Do you have you developed a social media strategy, or are you just like, this looks interesting, I'm going to analyze this and react to, Beyonce plastic off the sofa? Like what kind of, it's just this sort of intuitive, now I'm going to make this video?
It's way more intuitive. It's way more intuitive than anything else. I'm a man of faith, so I always say like, I kind of think and pray about things like that. But I listen to people what they request. That's a big thing. A lot of people, when they comment certain things, a lot of times, like if so many people comment the same video at the same time, I know the reason I need to watch that video. I need to react to it. So that's a contender that I think about. I also think about what I think my audience usually likes. I can sometimes guarantee what, but sometimes it surprises me. Like, I'll tell you what surprised me when I did the Muses. Hercules and Muses, I did that on a whim because I liked the video and it came up on my recommended page. I said, oh, I'm going to do them. And there was nothing, I didn't think nothing about it. I just did that. And that kind of sparked this whole Disney kick that my channel's on now. So now I'm like doing all these Disney songs. And Disney, has a built-in audience, a very loyal built-in audience. So if it's Disney and it's good, it's going to be good. And because I like Disney, I like to talk about it. Shoot, why not? So that's kind of some of my strategy. It's like listening to my audience, seeing what they want. If I'm tagged in a video like a million times, I know there's a reason I even see that video. So I usually go to it and try to react to it. But even that, I oftentimes just scroll on TikTok, on Instagram, and just see what comes up. And if it kind of catches my ear, I'll go for it. Also, things that I enjoy, music that I like that I feel like needs to be talked about. I'm going to just talk about it because I want to talk about it. So I have a combination of strategies, but all those are my strategy, if you will. But listening to the audience is a huge one for me because that's what they want to see. And also, I'll say what I know is going to be trending or what is trending. My one friend, he called it the rat race of social media, and it really is. It's the who can get the video up, quicker for in my position and what I do. There's so many people who are doing the stuff that I'm doing. So, like, I remember when the Super Bowl happened, and people don't know this, but I sat in my studio waiting to record the reactions for the Chris Embleton, Cheryl Lee Ralph, and whoever the third, Rihanna. I knew people were going to look for those on YouTube. And I said, I know they're going to post them as soon as they're done. So instead of going to go to a Super Bowl party, I sat at my work studio and just refreshed my computer until I saw them pop up. And then I just recorded it, edited that same while the Super Bowl was happening, and posted it while the Super Bowl was happening. So I knew people were looking for these performances thereafter. And I said, let me just get them up now And all three of those videos did super well. Same thing with Little Mermaid. Every time a video like Hallie was singing something, or Melissa, I knew wanted to see it. Let's just do it. So I saw the Color Purple trailer came out, and I said, I know people want me to talk about this. So I said, let me just get ready now. So when the videos come out, just be ready. Tiny Desks, I talk about those a lot. Those, I know those are usually very good videos to use because they're raw vocals. They're way more acoustic than pre-recorded. So a lot depending on the Tiny Desk. I knew Usher's Tiny Desk was gonna be massive, so I waited for that one. And I cleared my schedule to record today. It came out. So that's my strategy to use, a little bit of that rat race. And that's part of the success, I think, is because I commit and make these weird hours to record videos that most people going home and going to eat. I'm sitting in my studio recording and editing video, but then I can, leverage that with the income and the, maybe subscriber, increase, or just the view increase, which is super important, the views. So.
And it seems like you have a nice combination of the rat race and also just things that you think are interesting, which I think is important. Like you need that content that reaches a broader audience, but then you also need that content that is just like, I just think this is interesting. I think that's really important for long-term stability, not just for your own sanity, which I would argue your own sanity is probably one of the biggest assets you have in running a YouTube channel that often gets overlooked. But yeah, you do need that kind of foundation of, this is just stuff I like, and then this is also stuff that you like, but it's more, you're following the trends, and I think you're doing that really well. So I commend you for this. Not some people go, usually they'll go too far in the rat race direction. I find, like, I guess it's possible to go too far in the I'm just gonna stick to my niche and things that I think are interesting, but then that kind of depends on your goal, right? Like maybe that you're just doing it for fun. That's totally fair. But yeah, generally that combination, that's the golden combo for sure.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I do. I remember doing the Malachi, I forget his last name, but he's the little boy who sang on Britain's Got Talent, the Augie Johnston song. And I saw, when it popped up in recommendations, I was recording other videos and I saw him on the corner of my screen. I said, oh, I love him. So I clicked him and I just did his video just off of a whim because I love his voice. And I didn't necessarily know it was trending. And within a month, it has like almost 500,000 views. So that may be the video that goes 1 million views because it's increasing by the day. But that was just on a whim because I loved his voice. I didn't know he was trending on YouTube at the time. I just happened to see it. And then, he's trending, but I usually look at views and things like that. And I was like, oh, okay, this video has some views and people are interested. But I didn't know the news video was going to go so well either because it's such an old movie. I love Hercules, but that movie came out, I was 7 years old. So, so that movie was old, But I think because it's such good music and so timeless, it don't matter when we talk about it, it's going to be a hit, So yeah, absolutely. I think that combination is very important too. And to me, it keeps my sanity intact because I'm still talking about things I like. Because I tell you all the time, I said, there are some videos I do not want to do, but you will never know it. You'll never know it, but I will never tell, but there are some videos that I have analyzed that I had to breathe. And say, Jaren, just get through this thing, But I know y'all wanted to see it, so I did it, And I tell people that. That's not a secret. I said, but you'll never know the videos I didn't want to do because everybody deserves, that time, and to see who they love and for artists to be given their flowers, I may not understand the artist or understand what they're doing, but hey, I'm going to talk about what I hear and hopefully you guys can get something from it. So that's kind of where I try to speak in life from a very neutral lens. Instead of, I like with this, I don't like that. Just a very neutral, like, this is what I hear. Y'all like it? Great. If not, okay.
That's great. I think that's a good attitude for a teacher as well. And I'm kind of curious, so on the horizon for you, it seems like you have this style of content that works really well for you. You can make videos really quickly too, which is huge. That's so important. And then you have all these sessions that are booked out till August, you said, the teaching sessions. But like, do you have other projects kind of in the back of your mind, or things you're kind of working on in the background that you plan on kind of releasing, or pie in the sky goals? Yeah, what is kind of the, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Right.
Uh-huh.
No, yes. I actually had we had a powwow with one of my friends, and she was talking about, what's your next, and I've been ever since she said it, it was cold outside, and ever since she said that, I was like, I've been thinking about it hardcore. Not that I ever forgot it, it kind of came to the forefront of my mind. But I would love to, write some books about voice stuff. I would love, to maybe do a podcast on my own. I would love to diversify, maybe do some, some other workshops. I used to do workshops. I used to do a lot more diverse offerings in my studio, but once the videos took off, all I did was private sessions and videos because it took up all my time. Because right now I edit my own videos. So that takes a lot of time to edit your own and post. And I feel like for a minute, all I did was edit videos and teach. And so now that I have help and, I have a team, I'm building a team in my studio, I can let go of some things. And so with that, I can now go back into other things that I've always wanted to do, that I've had brainstorm folders for and I've thought about for years. But with this, when the social media stuff happened, I just, I got caught up in the success of that. And I think rightfully so to a high extent, because it worked. And producing income, I enjoyed it, so, but yeah, I'd love to write some books. I would love to maybe even do like a tour. Though I have social anxiety, I think I do. But I would still love to do, people have said you should do one, maybe like a workshop tour, like a masterclass tour. I never thought that I would be in that position to do something, but people have asked for it time and time again, like, come to my city. So, maybe doing like a mini tour, starting to do stuff like that, and just, that could be my next, of just getting back out there, because I know there's some people who want to see me in person who don't really want to do the private lessons, even maybe some celebrities, I don't know. So, yeah, so that's kind of the next for me, is just kind of stepping out a little bit more, away from the camera so much, especially once I get an editor and things like that. I can really do that, because recording is the hard part. I can click a camera on and, talk. It's the, the editing and making sure everything makes sense and, all that stuff. And my editing has come down to a science. So I'm much more efficient with it now, because I kind of know my system, and I kind of can just put it together. It used to take me 6 hours to edit one video. Now
how long does it take?
Say, depending on how long the content is, anywhere from like an hour and a half to 3. Usually like an hour and a half, hour and 45 is like kind of usually where I go. But when I first started, 6 hours. I remember I just was like, what? 6 hours? But also was trying to learn Final Cut Pro at the time. So that's, now that I know it, it's much like, okay, it's not as hard. But yeah, so that's what's next for me, I think. It's just stepping out and doing big lofty goals that I've always had, and now are very attainable for me. They're very attainable. And of course, still increase with social media. I have certain numbers and goals I have set for this year, or get as close to them as possible. Get as close to them as possible. So yeah, that's kind of what's next.
Mm-hmm. And when it sounds like you're really in the throes of, like, you're starting to look for an editor, but you haven't quite gotten there yet. I find with working with an editor, it can start out, maybe they don't quite get the edit right, but then as they sort of learn your style, then it gets really efficient, and you can really flow with it a lot more. And that relationship, I think, is really important with an editor. And yeah, it's like, do you think that's a big priority for you, or is that sort of like at some point, sure? Like, because some people, they have a sort of a tumultuous relationship with editing. They find it tedious, it's boring. But then other people are like, I couldn't even imagine somebody else editing my own videos. Not only because I really like editing, but also, like, I don't think somebody else could edit the same way I do. So I'm kind of curious about how you feel on an emotional level about video editing.
I mean, that's really emotional. That's real, because to me, I often call my work my baby. this is my baby, so, how parents had their children, certain people they'll leave them with and other people they ain't gonna leave them with, same thing. Like there's certain things I'm trusting. So with the editing stuff, I feel like because my editing style is very simple, like I like minimalist, I like clean. I'm not really big on like a lot of moving graphics and I like where to pop up and pop off. Like I don't really do all the moving stuff and that's just not my style. And I think that's part of why people like what I do, because there's a simplistic aspect to it. I'm just like, here's what it is, here's the name of the artist, let's get right to it, I used to have these long intros. I condensed my intros even, so I've condensed a lot to just kind of get to the good stuff, So I think the editing part, I think I would like to give it to somebody for real, like fully, but I know I'm going to be like up they face until they get it right, because my admin, when he first came on, I'm like, send me everything you do before you do it. I don't care what it is. I want to see a screenshot of whatever it is you send on my behalf. I want to see what you're saying before you say it. But now it's like, okay, now he understands you a little bit more. He's like, okay, just, now I can trust him to send emails on his own now, but before I was like, I want to see everything. So the same thing with editing. Like when they first do it, I'm like, I need to see, everything. I want to see what you're using. I want to see, but then after I see and it works, because I want to keep my same aesthetic, but if they can bring something to the table, I can't, that makes it even better. And I like it. Like, yeah. So I'm very open to that too. I'm not one of the people who can't evolve. I'm like, hey, if you bring something I like it and it works and I feel like it's going to fit, and it's more efficient or better or looks better, yes. So I'm also hoping that my editor, whoever they are, can also maybe enhance my videos a little bit to where it's even better than, what I was doing. Because I'm very marginal. I get a job done, but like, I ain't no editor. I just figured it out because I had to.
And honestly, I think it makes you such a better manager when you actually know how to edit and you have the experience. Because, you don't necessarily have to know how to edit to hire an editor, of course, but I do think it just makes you a better manager. You understand what it's like to be in the trenches, so to speak. You kind of understand what you're asking for and probably how long it's going to take. And all of these, I think, are really important, right? Because, it's... some people, I guess, never learn to edit, but I do find that the most successful people on the platform know how to edit, and they know how to edit well, especially in their own style. So, I think this is always the better place to be, for sure.
Absolutely. I could totally understand that. Yeah, like I said, I did the iMovie first, and I transitioned to Final Cut. And I love, at this point, Final Cut, I know, and I don't want to learn nothing new right now. So we're going to stick to Final Cut, until I need to move, But yeah, because I just kind of derived inspiration from people who I liked and say, okay, everybody who I liked has simple, the same filter, if you will, or I guess same loop, whatever. Everything was very simple and elegant. I was like, that's what I want. I don't want all the stuff. I just want simple, elegant. I don't want, yelling in the camera. Like, I'm just going to talk, we're going to laugh, have a good time. That's it. Like, I don't do all that other stuff, so yeah. And the crazy thing is that I rarely watch reactions myself, and then I do them for a living. The crazy thing is, like, I always find myself, I always laugh at myself, and I have to, like, wow, I don't ever watch reactions. Like, I love them. I just never watch them. And then I was like, oh yeah, and I do them for a living. Yeah, and I don't watch, I just kind of just watch other things, But I think it's because I do it for a living. I just kind of get away from it, When I'm on my downtime, I just, watch other things. So I think that's funny.
Yeah, it's clearly it's all working out. I think your attitude towards editing and kind of your passion for all of this, it seems like it kind of combines well together. Which I think is, so from there, I think this is a good segue to, like, what do you think is the most important thing for succeeding on YouTube or TikTok and kind of online in general? Because a lot of people, they're excited to see you when they see you in the mall or wherever it is that you are. And I think part of that is, one, they like your stuff. And two, YouTubers and kind of online celebrities, they're kind of, ask a kid what they want to be when they grow up. They'll probably say like a YouTuber, a
Mm-hmm.
TikToker, or whatever. So like, what would be your advice to somebody who has those dreams and they maybe haven't turned on a camera yet?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. My advice would be, number one, be yourself. I had to take that advice from myself. So I strongly suggest that advice to other people. Another piece of advice I would say is it's okay not to know. It's okay to figure it out. It's okay to trial and error. That's what I did, and I had to find my sweet spot, but I had to try different things to find it. So, try different things, see what works for you. Talk about what you're passionate about. Do what you're passionate about. Whatever that looks like, whatever that is, do what you're passionate about, because that's gonna make you shine the most. You're gonna feel the most authentic. Make people can smell a fake a million miles away on a device. They can just sense it. And if you're not genuine, they're gonna find out. They're gonna figure it out real quick, and they're gonna be like, So I would say just be passionate, be authentic, be yourself. Trial and error, and be consistent as you healthily and humanly possibly can. Be consistent. I think a lot of people, when they don't see the immediate success, they run. And rightfully, I think to a point, it's kind of human nature to do that. This isn't producing the fruits I wanted to produce. I'm just going to just do something else. Versus, I believe in this enough to where I know it's going to work. I'm going to keep doing it. Yeah, and I just say be consistent, with that, and know your mission, know what you want to put out into the world. Part of my mission is to just equalize all genres of voice and music. So there's not a hierarchy of what's better than the other, one's more quote unquote healthy than the other. It's just this is just how voices work. This is what they're doing. You can like it or dislike it. That's your prerogative. But so what is your message to the world? What do you want the world to know from you? What do you want to say to the world? And from that, let that be your thing. And just start. Listen, I had that camera, that iPhone 11 and that wreath, and that's all I had. I stood in front of my wall in my studio and started, and now, I'm hoping when I hit 200K to get a 4K camera, just because I've always wanted one, if I feel like doing that, I would consider it after I get to 200,000, but which is weird to say, 200,000 on YouTube. But yeah, I'm at 180 something now, 186 now, so it's definitely in the near future for me, but which is so crazy. I'm so thankful. But yeah, that's what I would say. Those things, just do it, try it, do it, and be okay with looking a fool, whatever, looking silly. I try to look so serious in mine, but people love that silly and that authenticity in your own way. They just love that connection. People want to connect to people.
Mm-hmm.
They want to connect to people, not so much. You can be the brand, but they want to connect to the person. And I think people just connect to me as a person, and they subscribe because it's me, I guess.
And what do you think was going through your head, like when you first turned on the camera and you were more serious and you weren't really being yourself? Like, where do you think that came from? Like, how obviously you had other people in your life who kind of pointed it out, and that can be really helpful. But what do you think was happening there, like that made you do that in the first place to kind of clam up?
I wanted to be taken seriously, quote unquote. I know that's exactly what it was. I remember I wanted to look a professional, I wanted to look poised and sophisticated, and all the things. And I saw other coaches, vocal coaches, who were doing that and kind of talking that way. And I said, okay, well, they're kind of successful. Like, let me, emulate that. But yeah, it didn't feel authentic to me. In those videos, I think either I hid those or I just have them like in a playlist that can't nobody find. They're on there still, but you have to look to find them. But yeah, I just didn't feel authentic. I was trying to present something that wasn't me, because I thought that's what I had to do in order to be taken seriously as a teacher. But even how I was talking, I was like, hello, I'm Jaren. And today we're going to talk about, and I'm just like, why are you talking like that? Now if I do that, it's a joke. Like, I do that for my event videos, but I'm joking, so it's kind of like a satire way of advertising my event, But yeah, so yeah, and once I was myself, it got a lot better. But I think I just wanted to be taken seriously.
And do you
And
think some of that is kind of like a previous generation thing, or do you think that's always kind of been true, that if you are your authentic self, then it works out? Or do you think it's easier to do nowadays?
I do think it's what my parents instilled in me, because my parents are boomers, and so right, so they're different generations than us the millennials, right? So, they're way more about looking the part and sounding a certain way. And keep in mind, my brothers and I laugh at my mom because she has her phone voice and her mama voice, and we laugh at like her business voice. We're like, girl, that's not how you talk, And she's like, y'all be quiet, whatever, because I'm like, girl, you talk totally different, but with me, I'm talking the same way in the video that I'm talking to my brothers, but I think my parents and their generation were raised in that light of, you had to you got to talk this way and code switch and all these other things. I feel like the world's way more like, be you, we'll just fit you in, or, the world will adjust, as some people said that one saying, be you, the world will adjust. And so I think with me, I just started being myself. And I think working in the arts too helps a lot with me, because the arts are way more quote unquote free in some ways.
Sure. Yeah.
But so I think with that quote unquote, I use large quotations, quote unquote freedom, I'm able to be myself more, and it's not a huge deal. And then I think once I started for myself, my mom saw like, oh, he's like making money being himself. So now she, my son has a YouTube channel, and he had, and I don't think she really understood what it was at first. I don't think she was always proud, but she just didn't understand it. But now, now every time I see my mom's friends, my mom to the YouTube channel has, and I'm like, yeah, and so she's like excited. She has a famous son, she's like, my son's famous. My son's famous. Like, I went to this big concert in the city at a big hall, on one of our big halls here, and the artist knew who I was because we worked together in a workshop. And he shouted me out the last song. He dedicated his last song to my good friend Jaren. He's in the audience. And he was like, Akron, he is one of the top vocal coaches of the world right now. He lives in your city. I'm trying to know that. Like, he is one of the top in the world. And I'm like, no, he is not. And my mom was like, he shouted you out. Oh my God, I have a famous son. And, she just could not let that go. I can't be a famous son.
That's adorable.
Oh, gosh. So, that's what I would say to all of that. I think just being yourself is way more millennial and ongoing than boomers. Way more so.
Yeah, and thank goodness for that. I feel like just everybody being all buttoned up all the time, it's exhausting. It's like LinkedIn all the time or something. It's just
right, LinkedIn on LinkedIn. Good God,
we need to be done with that. It's
right.
Oh my God. Yeah, well, I'm so happy this is working out so well for you. Like, it seems like you really are. It's so cheesy, but like your dreams are coming true. Like, it's like, does it feel that way? Does it feel surreal? I mean, it seems like you've always kind of made a living off of your voice and singing in general, but it seems it's sort of like exponentially turned into something that just a few years ago, like, is kind of unrecognizable in a way.
It does feel like dreams coming true. I mean, to be able to have, some A-list celebrities reach out to me for stuff, coaching or, things like that. I mean, just like, wow, I just have never thought, Jan from Akron, Ohio would be doing all this stuff. And it's just going by leaps and bounds each day. I mean, I'll tell you one thing that blew my mind was when Yeba commented on a video I did of hers. And she was like, I didn't take a voice lesson with you. Like, you know how to break this stuff down. And I'm like, Yeba? And so, and I didn't think that, because, sometimes you tag these celebrities and, they may see it, but they're not responding, may not even see it, and so the fact that she even took the time to comment, for me, is huge, but it's that kind of stuff like, wow, people really like watch my stuff and really, I remember getting, John Legend following me, and I'm just like, John Legend? Now he's from Ohio
Dang.
too, you know. Shout out to Ohio boys. But yeah, you know, just people like that, like we all look up to. You know, I've had sessions with people who I've looked up to my entire life, and analyze them. They DM me, and then I'm in front of them 2 days later on camera, and I have to be Jan the teacher instead of Jan the fan. And I'm like, but can I just fan out for 5 minutes real quick? You know, let me just get it out. You know, because so it's like a dream come true being able to be in these positions. And I didn't know, just making videos on YouTube and just being myself and TikTok. And all of a sudden now I have this massive following that I didn't know I was going to ever amass. You know, you all kind of think, oh, look, you're my following. You know, now I'm like, God, I'm over 100,000 on Instagram. Like, that's a lot of people. And it's just growing more and more. Like, I'm almost at 400,000 on TikTok. Where y'all coming from? You know, so it's just crazy that, you know, these dreams of mine are coming true, and I'm doing it fully on my own, you know, working for myself. I never would have thought that either. So it's a blessing. It's truly a blessing to be in this position.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. And I guess my last question for you is, obviously this podcast is all about building YouTube channels and kind of succeeding in that way. Did you ever consume any content or like read articles about like how to grow a YouTube channel, or was it all since day one and just like, I'm making videos, I'm uploading them, and
yeah, you know, I want to say the content that I experienced, or the content I took in, was way more about how-tos of like editing, how-tos of lighting, how-tos of make a thumbnail, like that kind of stuff. It was never how to grow a YouTube channel. It was never that. It was always, how do I edit in Final Cut Pro? How do I edit the color? How do I, that kind of stuff. And then, so it's more so just kind of the technicalities of, the work behind editing a video. But in terms of how to grow, I never used those. Honestly, I never saw, I watched YouTubers who opened up their 100K plaques. I'll tell you, I would watch those. Like, oh my God, I want one of those, And now that I have one. In my one friend, I was practicing for an event, and we were in my studio, and my plaque is laying on top of my piano in a particular day, and he was like, "This is like a Grammy." I'm like, "Low key, it is." Like, he's like, "I feel like I'm holding a Grammy right now," and I was like, "Low key, I didn't think about that, but yeah, it's like a YouTube Grammy, so to speak, in many ways, because I think they said like only 2% or 0.2% of channels get to that status, and so yeah, but I never looked at videos of how to grow YouTube channel. I just post what I loved, and the rest has just become history. I mean, of course, I refined the tags and the titles and things, and then thumbnails. So I refined stuff over the years, but it was all organic,
Yeah, it's funny how that works. Like, I think it can be really valuable to look into kind of the numbers and the data. But then there's also this totally other, more intuitive side of things where you do just kind of focus on the videos themselves and, how do I light things? How do I make it look good? How do I edit videos? Like that, there's two ways to go about it. And I think, it doesn't have to be all or all one or all the other, but ultimately it does seem like, I mean, it can just work when you use your intuition and you move forward consistently. It's amazing how much that can succeed, truly.
Absolutely, it's amazing, and just how it can be so organic and out of nowhere. I remember one of my first videos I posted on TikTok that went viral. I remember editing it, like writing the words, the captions. I was music director for a show, but because there was no room for me to sit on the stage and sit with the musicians, I had to sit in the back of the auditorium each night and just sit there. So I was sitting in the back of the auditorium editing TikTok video. Then I remember it was like 11 o'clock at night, and I was sitting there editing it, because shows sometimes run later, they start late. I posted it, and it was in like 10 minutes. That was at that time, 2020, I think, or 2021, I should say. It went to like 10K views in like 10 minutes. And I'm like,
wow,
this is, and then in like 20K in like 30, I was just like, wait. And that was, I think, one of the videos that got me to 100K was just, and it's always the videos that, most times the videos that I don't think twice about that soar. But the videos I'm like, oh yeah, let me think this and da-da-da. You know?
That always seems to be how it works.
Yeah, just like when I do it on a whim. Like I remember doing Hot Part of Your World, Jodie Benson, because I saw the video on her TikTok. I just did it because I wanted to. I was literally on my couch editing the video on my phone, posted it, and just let it go. And I think that thing had like 4 million views now. And that was like 2 weeks ago, maybe last week, 2 weeks ago, something like that. I'm like, I'm just laying watching, I don't know, Avatar, whatever I was watching, on Netflix.
Good choice.
And yeah, and it's always those videos that I'm not thinking twice about, where I kind of just post because I want to, and I just kind of let it go, and then those are always like, oh yeah, let's like this 1 million times. And I'm like, okay, well, thanks guys, so yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, Jaren, it's been awesome talking to you. I love how well things are going for you, and
Thank
that
you.
you're really like being yourself, and it's working out. And I love to see that. Truly, it's beautiful.
I appreciate that.
I love it. I can't say the word love enough.
I love that. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me too. Pleasure, definitely a pleasure.
Yeah, right on. And hey, thank you so much for listening, whoever you are. And yeah, go check Jaren out if you have not already. You will not be disappointed. You will learn all sorts of things about how to be a better singer and also be entertained. And ultimately, that's what we're on these platforms for, right?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And with that, bye everybody. Love ya.